suspect not.
But in all seriousness, like he did offer something in attack that they've not really had this season with Connor and Grix, who were more playmaking styles that they've had the last couple of years. And the pack still in fits and bursts, but there's not the depth there. There's not with Akuma Tai still out. There's no blow for blow for blow. It's like Ika Hihifo can do what he can do, but everyone else is just work a day.
Yeah,
and then off the back of that, they're not great defensively in the pack, I don't feel. So you can see why this sort of stuff happens. Catalan went on a really good burst in the middle of the sort of game, but it sounds like they went off the boil. It sounded like they went off the boil a little bit and actually got quite close towards the end.
Yes, it did. So what do the stats tell us on this one?
Most errors in any game so far this season, with 34 shared out, 18 to the Giants and 16 to the Dragons. The visitors had an extra break and made a little more ground, but with 3 extra penalties conceded and 3% worse team tackle success, they actually did quite well to hold on to this one in the end.
Okay, so individually then.
Well, Luke Walsh grabbed himself a try, 2 try assists, 2 clean breaks, so he keeps being influential for the Dragons. Braden Williamy, who on the radio coverage, I think it was Andy Kelly who was the...
Was he Brandon Williams?
Was the second commentator, the sort of colour commentator, as it were.
Go on.
He was calling him Will I Am, and he said, well, it's just easier to say, I don't know which one it is, Willie Arm or Willie Army, so I just say Will I Am, I'm happy with that.
There's not like the professionalism of rugby league commentators from time to time, is there?
But 1 try and 122 metres for him, so he keeps going quite well there. Tony Gigo, his glorious return has rolled through Huddersfield as well. 1 try, 11 tackle busts, 110 metres, 2 clean breaks. Ian Thornley, 105 metres, and Kristen Inu, 104 metres.
There you go. So for Huddersfield, who stood out?
Well, Ryan Hinchcliffe with 40 tackles, putting a good shift there. Sebastian Ikehifo had 17 tackle busts, which is the second most SLP all-time, behind Don Manfredi's 19 in Good Friday last year. Cool. 119 metres he managed to make alongside knocking people over like Skittles. Jermaine McGilvery with a try assist, 114 metres. Lee Gaskell keeps being a running threat from the halves with a try assist in 106 metres. And Alex Meller back in the second row this weekend, 104 metres.
Player we rate highly. When I was reading the stats on this one and it said Gigo to CB, I wondered if that was 2 commissioners bribed. But clearly not. Okay, on to Thursday evening then, and the Cheshire Derby. The pressure continues to mount on the Widnes Vikings as Warrington claw their way back up the table. It was 10 points to 19 in favour of the visiting Wire in front of 8,279.
Yeah, we start with Tyler Casfan. He said, hard time to be a Widnes fan. They looked like they hadn't trained together all week. No obvious set plays or last tackle options. Lots of hard work needed.
Paul O'Brien got in touch to say Widnes still their own worst enemies. Too many dropped balls and conceded far too many penalties. Officials giving a try that never was. This may be my Widnes fan side coming out, but I thought Bentham was poor tonight. Widnes lack creativity and we just don't make as many metres as other teams. Our last kick plays are always up high. We need to change the game management.
What was the try that never was?
I'm racking my brains, mate.
I mean, obviously there was the...
I mean, to be fair, Phil Bentham was partially concussed for a portion of this game, wasn't he? So who knows what he was giving.
He got the... He sent up a Ryan Atkins one, not believing Ryan Atkins' celebration, so he got that.
He's obviously a Super League pod listener, Mark.
Yeah.
Atkins for England.
He's a contributor as well, so we'll get to later on, to be honest. At Wire Joe said, it's a good job Widnes are absolutely shy. Any other team in the comp would have beaten us tonight. When we went back to our ugly penalty-ridden selves in the second half, we defended as well as we needed to, but Widnes didn't really offer too dangerous a threat. Glad to get the win, and hopefully we'll cut out the errors on Monday, but we'll need a better showing than if we want to go 2 from 2 over Easter.
There you go. Kev the Chemic got in touch, wonder who he supports. He said, sorry, do you want to go back to Wire Joe?
I just was going to say, I had this sort of sat on the side before at home when I was writing up the bits we do for this week in league, and Emma just sort of glanced over the side and just started laughing when she read like any other team in the comp we would have beaten and we were absolutely shy. And she's just like, well, that's where the standard lies.
There you go.
It's quality contribution. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Whoa. Start your own podcasts. Mrs. Illingworth. Right, okay. Kevin the Chemic says, what a terrible game. The least bad team won, but only just. Both teams need to improve greatly to have a chance of staying in Super League.
I thought that was pretty succinct, but Peter J. Thomas goes one step further. At Mr. Peter J. Thomas said, summed up in 3 words, £1 million preview.
There you go. David Walker, and he is David W.G. Walker. We've got some very formal Twitter handles coming through, haven't we? He says, appallingly low quality game. Glad I wasted no money on it. Bets not disappointed, ? Full marks for seeing a bright side, because nobody else is.
Andy Barden at Brit_Renegade said, Widnes eventually got into the derby. Still lacked creativity after tackle 5 though. No point chanting it's always Wolves' year.
There you go. Neil McKeown got in touch. He says, dog shite with a load of poo emoticons. Widnes have no tactics apart from panic with 20 minutes to go and try and throw it about. Bets out for me.
Yeah, Phil Bentham said, yes.
What a cunning play on words.
Well, the way it's been written...
Yeah.
Makes me suspect this was our friend from France.
Oh, do you reckon?
Well, from Barcelona, because he writes this all the time in his reviews.
I was going to call Ludo on this.
But I was going to say, I think it might have been someone. No, Ludo normally gets us in close to the wire. He's normally the last person to, and so he has the last word on games.
And he's quite happy to be himself, isn't he? So, I don't know.
But I don't know anyway. He says, Phil Bentham says, yes, what a game. Gotta say, I'm a little hungover this morning. Fuck knows how I'm going to video rep the Pies versus Saints game. Probably just wing the fucker like always. So proud of the boys last night and so made up I could play a big part in our first away win of the season. Steph even gave me his Man of the Match award. The sexy postman Pat looking bastard. Tony Smith's Farmy Army.
There you go.
I thought Robert Hicks was the video ref of our game, but
I've got to be honest with you. As much as I love Alan, that was far too coherent to be an Al. There's you always have, like with Alan's, there's usually kind of a sort of a meandering segue halfway through. I'm not
sexy postman Pat bastard. What a lie!
Yeah, there you go. Lee Whitnell got in touch. He said, I think Mark might mention Ryan Atkins cheating again after this game, but in fairness to Ryan, he's afflicted with cow's tits for hands. I probably can't tell whether he's holding the ball or not when it's grounded. Just be thankful he's not cutting your hair.
Maybe Lee was.
I love you, Lee. That's brilliant. That's absolutely tremendous.
Maybe Lee was Phil Bentham.
He does advertise free haircuts and stuff on Twitter if you follow Ryan Atkins.
Does he?
Yeah, you can nip down and he'll do his practice haircuts.
I thought we might be blocked by him by now, to be honest.
I don't think we don't particularly give him
Dar Garner, who promised me he'd send in a match review this time but still hasn't.
And Warrington won everything.
Did try our best to get Ryan Atkins to 1, block us, and 2, come round and knock me out, I think. But Paul Ludo,
I suspect that Rara has got better things to do than take a trip.
Well, he blocked a Warrington fan who got in touch with us to say that he's spotted the thing and doesn't appreciate one of his players celebrating tries they haven't scored repeatedly.
And he blocked him,
yeah. Paul Ludo Lewis,
Atkins for England, said
if Kevin Brown had played for either team, then Widnes would have won that one.
Great stuff.
I mustn't have read that when I've been through this. Chris Houston is a liability. Greg Bird has chippy tits, and Chris Bridge couldn't be less arsed if he tried. Danny Craven and the decent Chapelhouse twin were the only ones playing with pride.
The decent Chapelhouse twin, which one?
Jay. Playing with pride. Although the ball high in the air on the last play is getting old fast. I can't believe it's not bets out.
There you go. I have to admit, reading the people's tweets on this one has been the best thing about this game for me.
Yeah, good point.
To be perfectly honest with you, I've cracked up more time than one specific set of match feedbacks than I think I have in quite some time. So thank you to everyone who contributes. Your legends all. Apart from the fact that it was just riddled with errors and a bit of a garbage game, did you take anything from this apart from 2 pretty average-looking sides? Really?
Yeah, I mean,
wasn't pleasant.
Widnes didn't seem to have much of a game plan. They do seem to have a completely different team out every single week or every single game, which doesn't help formulating a game plan. But they didn't seem to have anything organised to take Warrington on, and Warrington were probably able to do what they're good at against them in terms of going down the middle, making a bit of ground, but they didn't.
No,
they didn't really then finish anything off like they've not been all season. So that's what we've become used to seeing from the Wolves. But it was a little bit more entertaining in the second half when Widnes started throwing the ball around, because at least then there was some attempt at enterprising play rather than one team running from dummy half then dropping the fucker as soon as they tried to spread it wide, and the other team basically making no meters in contact and kicking the ball as high as they can and hoping for a miracle. But yeah, that was that. What about you? You mentioned the Chris Houston thing.
Well, that's the highlight of that was the main talking point of the game. What an absolutely ridiculous move. I mean,
I'm surprised though that he's got a harsher grading than the one that Carl Ablett got a few weeks ago, because it looked very similar to me in that the referee was in between him and the player he wanted to tackle, so he took an opportunity to lower his shoulder into him a little bit.
Yeah, but I think it's... Look, you got to look at where it comes in the game and where it comes in Widnes' season as a whole, and I think there will have been a portion of frustration bubbling over in Chris Houston, and it's not to be tolerated.
I certainly don't remember loads of terrible calls that Bentham made. Now I'm thinking more, and I'm wearing my mind back. I remember having a chat with Paul around at half time on Twitter, and there were a couple of calls late on in the first half that were favourable to Warrington, but I don't think anything that was...
I mean, frustrations in a season going down the fucking shitter rather than more specific.
And I think to be fair to the Widnes fans, they might say the ref wasn't great, but they're fully aware that the failings in all the games they're losing is their own team.
Of course it is. And the thing is, as you alluded to, they can't seem to get a solid 17 or a solid 13 out on the same pitch 2 weeks on the trot, and it's been compounded this weekend, as we'll go on to talk about in round 10.
Well, two of the best performers on the stats from this game even didn't back up, so...
Yeah. So, in terms of the broader stats for the game then, what did that tell us about this one?
Well, Widnes' stats weren't actually that poor in this one. They had an extra break, 10 more successful offloads and 3 fewer errors. They had 20 more carries and tackled at 95% overall, which is pretty decent. However, Warrington were a bit more efficient with more metres, at 1.3 metres per carry better average gains, that's way better each carry, and 1.4% better team tackle success, as well as giving away 3 fewer penalties.
Okay, so did anyone really stand out for Warrington?
Ben Julian made his first game of the season, as far as I can recall it.
I don't recall him starting, man.
And played pretty well. Actually, played pretty well and got through a lot of work. Made 105 metres. Chris Hill had one of his best games so far this year with 161 metres. Stephen Ratchford was a threat. He had a try, 5 tackle bus, 151 metres.
You might say he delivered.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
And even Kurt Gidley had 2 try assists.
There you go. For the hapless Vikings, then, who stood out?
Well, Stephen Marsh grabbed a try and 113 metres. Jay Chapelhoe, 11 marker tackles, so tough work in defence, and 113 metres, so the good Chapelhoe did good. Jordan Johnston, the young hooker / halfback, 40 tackles in this one. Reece Hamry, 124 metres, and Tom Armstrong, 157 metres out on the wing.
Right, there you go. So... lots of metres out wide, but no clinicism in finishing.
Well, that suggests that you're making your metres on kick returns.
Yeah.
To be honest,
Okay. Right, into Good Friday then, and it was the derby mark. Wigan Warriors 29, St Helens 18. It was a game with some great tries, not without its controversy, and 23,390 people got to witness it live.
Yeah, the 6th highest regular season attendance outside of Magic Weekend.
There you go. Fantastic.
It's since the Super League began 21 years ago.
Okay, well, it's your derby, it's your victory. Let's get to it once we've heard what people got in touch and had to say.
Well, we start with where the game starts, really, in a way. Paul Ludo Lewis says, looks like Amor paid the price for refs bottling it in previous weeks. I know the slow-mo replays show that the tackle was possibly only a yellow, but in normal speed, like the ref saw, my instant reaction was red. Pies would have won either way, because I had Saints on my acca. Finally, even when sacked, KC showed how shit he is by the fact that he was playing Jack Owens when he had Regan Grace in his squad.
Okay, Mitchell Dart.
I was talking to a Saints fan I work with who avoids games nowadays, doesn't find them entertaining enough, right. So occasionally watches the Sky ones, but spends most of her weekends walking in the lakes instead.
Right.
And Mark Preston, a nippy, elusive winger in his own right.
Yeah.
And I was chatting to them today, and they were both talking about about Regan Grace and where he's been and that sort of stuff. And I said, well, I did pick him as my rising star for this season.
It does beg the question somewhat, doesn't it? Mitchell Darts from all the way down there in the Southern Hemisphere got in touch and said, as a neutral, it was probably the best game I've watched all year. Saints did amazing to hold on and get even better after half time with 12 men. That Liam Marshall try is the best that I've personally ever seen. Absolutely amazing. The DW Stadium with a huge crowd added to this game on TV. Easter weekend